The knock came at 11:47 p.m., soft but insistent, pulling Marcus Chen from the first decent sleep he'd had in weeks. His eyes snapped open in the darkness, heart hammering. Nobody knocked on doors at midnight with good news. He threw off the covers and grabbed his phone. No missed calls, no messages. Another knock, more urgent this time. Marcus padded down the hallway of his modest townhouse, checking instinctively on his 7-year-old daughter Lily's room as he passed. She was sleeping soundly, her arm wrapped around the stuffed elephant he'd won for her at the county fair last summer. He moved toward the front door, adrenaline sharpening his senses. Through the peephole he saw a woman swaying slightly on his doorstep. 3 small figures clustered around her legs like ducklings. He recognized her immediately. Victoria Hastings, his boss, the iron-willed CEO of Hastings Technologies, who'd never shown up late to a meeting in her life, who commanded boardrooms with a single glance, who'd signed his paychecks for 3 years without ever discussing anything more personal than quarterly projections. And she was crying. Marcus opened the door. "I didn't know where else to go," Victoria said, her voice cracking in a way that seemed to physically pain her. Her designer suit was wrinkled, mascara streaked down her cheeks. And her 3 children, triplets, he realized, all around 5 years old, stared up at him with identical wide brown eyes. "I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have come here. I just—" "Come in," Marcus said, stepping back without hesitation. The past 3 years had been a masterclass in reading between the lines with Victoria Hastings. While other employees speculated about her personal life, Marcus had pieced together fragments. The wedding ring that disappeared 18 months ago. The way she sometimes took calls in her office with the door closed and emerged red-eyed. The gradual transformation from a demanding but fair leader to someone who drove herself and everyone around her relentlessly, as if standing still meant drowning. She'd noticed him too, though neither acknowledged it directly. The way her requests for him to work late became more frequent, how she'd find reasons to stop by his desk, lingering over discussions about coding architecture that could have been emails. The Christmas party where she'd had 2 glasses of wine, and asked about his daughter, really asked, leaning in close enough that he could smell her perfume. He'd felt it then, something electric and terrifying that he'd immediately shut down. She was his boss. He was a single father with a daughter who'd already lost one parent. He couldn't afford complications, so he'd created distance, turned down late dinners disguised as work meetings, kept conversations strictly professional, watched something dim in her eyes each time he pulled away, until she stopped trying altogether. Now she stood in his living room, and one of the triplets, a little girl with pigtails, started crying. "I'm hungry," she whimpered. "Me too," said one of the boys, and then all 3 were crying, their exhaustion overwhelming them. Marcus looked at Victoria, who seemed paralyzed, and made a decision. Lily's mac and cheese recipe coming right up. Best in 3 counties. 20 minutes later, 3 small children sat at his kitchen table, shoveling down bowls of mac and cheese, with the desperation of kids who'd missed dinner. Marcus had added cut-up hot dogs and frozen peas, his secret weapons. Victoria sat at the end of the table, hands wrapped around a mug of tea she wasn't drinking. "My ex-husband was supposed to have them this week," she finally said, her voice hollow. "He texted 2 hours ago, said he was in Vegas with his new girlfriend and just forgot his own children." She laughed bitterly. "My nanny quit yesterday. My parents are on a cruise. My sister's in Tokyo. I drove around for hours trying to figure out what to do, and I realized I don't have any friends. Not real ones, just contacts, colleagues, people who know Victoria Hastings, CEO, not Victoria, who doesn't know how to make mac and cheese at midnight." "How did you know where I live?" Marcus asked gently. "HR files. I know it's creepy. I remembered you mentioning living in Riverside Heights, and I thought maybe you'd understand. Single parent to single parent." She looked at him, really looked at him, and he saw something raw and desperate. "I know I've been awful to work for lately. I know you've been avoiding me. You're smart to keep your distance. I'm a mess." The little girl with pigtails had finished her bowl and was staring at a photo on Marcus's refrigerator. Him and Lily at the beach last summer, both laughing, covered in sand. "You have a little girl?" she asked. "I do. She's sleeping upstairs. Her name's Lily." "That's pretty," the girl said. "I'm Emma, that's Noah, and that's Ethan." Marcus crouched down to their level. "Well, Emma, Noah, and Ethan, what do you say we set up the guest room for you guys? I've got sleeping bags from camping trips, and we can make it like an adventure." The transformation was immediate. The children perked up, tiredness temporarily forgotten. As Marcus gathered supplies, Victoria stood in the doorway watching him work, something unreadable in her expression. "Why are you helping me?" she whispered while the kids were distracted. Marcus paused. "Because 3 years ago my wife died in a car accident. Lily was 4. I didn't sleep for weeks, just watched her breathe at night, terrified something else would go wrong. I showed up to work exhausted, useless. You pulled me into your office and I thought I was fired. Instead, you told me you'd arranged for me to work from home 3 days a week. Said you'd cleared it with HR effective immediately. You never mentioned it again, never held it over me. You just saw someone drowning and threw them a rope." Victoria's eyes filled with tears. "You never said anything." "Neither did you." He met her gaze. "That's just who you are, isn't it? You help people and pretend it's nothing." An hour later, the triplets were asleep in sleeping bags on the guest room floor, and Victoria sat on Marcus's couch. The professional armor finally cracked wide open. "I pushed everyone away," she admitted. "After the divorce, I thought if I just worked harder, achieved more, it wouldn't hurt so much. But achievements don't hug you back. They don't care when you're falling apart." She looked at her hands. "I noticed when you started avoiding me. It hurt more than it should have, more than was appropriate for a boss to feel about an employee." Marcus sat down, leaving careful space between them. "I avoided you because I was scared." "Of me?" "Of how much I wanted to not avoid you." He ran a hand through his hair. "My wife and I, we were high school sweethearts. I've never had to figure out how to care about someone new as an adult. And you were my boss. It felt impossible. So I just shut down." "I'm sorry I put you in that position," Victoria said. "I should have been more professional." "You were professional, maybe too professional." Marcus smiled slightly. "I was the coward who ran away from someone who might actually understand what it's like to parent alone." They sat in silence for a moment, the weight of 3 years of careful distance between them. "I don't know how to do this," Victoria said finally. "The work-life balance everyone talks about. I'm failing at both." "You're not failing. You're here, aren't you? You found help for your kids. That took courage." Marcus leaned back. "After my wife died, someone told me that asking for help isn't weakness. It's the bravest thing a parent can do, because it means putting your child's needs above your pride. Is that what I did tonight?" "Yeah, and you came to the right place." Victoria wiped her eyes. "I should let you sleep. We can stay in a hotel." At 1 in the morning with 3 exhausted kids. "Not happening." Marcus shook his head. "You'll stay here tonight. We'll figure out tomorrow when tomorrow comes." "Why?" Victoria asked, the question hanging in the air between them. "After I made things weird at work. After you've been avoiding me for months. Why would you help me like this?" Marcus was quiet for a long moment. "Because I know what it's like to feel alone. Because your kids deserve to feel safe tonight. And because maybe I've spent 6 months avoiding something I should have been running toward." The next morning, Marcus woke to the sound of laughter. He followed the noise downstairs to find Lily teaching the triplets how to make pancake art. Flour everywhere, Victoria trying to help, but mostly making things worse. His daughter looked up and grinned. "Dad, we're making an elephant pancake. Emma's gonna name it Steve." Victoria caught his eye across the chaos, and he saw something there he hadn't seen in 3 years. Hope. The weeks that followed were complicated. Victoria hired a new nanny, a warm grandmother type who actually seemed to care about the triplets. She started leaving work at 5:30, delegating more, trusting her team. She and Marcus began having coffee, together, first as colleagues processing the midnight incident, then as friends, finally as something more. The office gossip was inevitable, but HR approved the relationship after. Victoria voluntarily recused herself from Marcus's performance reviews. She'd learned that vulnerability wasn't weakness and that asking for help was a form of strength she'd been denying. herself for too long. 6 months after that midnight knock, Marcus and Victoria sat in his backyard while their 4 children played together. Lily had embraced her role as big sister with enthusiasm, and the triplets adored her. "I should have come to your door sooner," Victoria said, lacing her fingers through his. "Maybe," Marcus agreed. "Or maybe we both needed to be ready. Maybe we needed to stop running from the thing that scared us most." "What scared you most?" Victoria asked. Marcus looked at her, this brilliant, complicated woman who'd shown up broken at his door, and trusted him with her children and her heart, believing I could deserve something good again. "And now?" "Now I think maybe we both deserve it." He squeezed her hand. "The happiness we were too afraid to reach for." As the children's laughter filled the evening air, 2 people who'd spent years building walls found themselves finally, blessedly home. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is knock on a door at midnight. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do is open it.